Thank you.
Little intro. Carson, you read him at Adobe Max, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. What made you reach out and say, like, you got to get Chris here?
He had such a cool booth. The illustrations, he had a set style. So I was like immediately intrigued by that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was Carson and Itzel, who's not here. But yeah, they were the ones who scouted me. So it turns out Nick is actually friends with one of my longtime clients right now, which is like a really
It's a small world.
really small world.
Beyond mutual clients, which was kind of and mutual friends throughout the years.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So as soon as she had told me that she reached out to Chris, we talked, and I have never had anyone who wants to come and talk to you guys prepare as much as Chris has. He wanted to even share the presentation with me. And I love that because that's the whole reason we do this, guys, right? We're here to learn, and if we have a guest that wants to come and talk to us, what more do we want than someone that's going to spend time and put together an amazing presentation for him? So,
I'm also being graded on this. That's why.
Yes, exactly. So, I'm going to hand it over to him in a second, but I did want to say too, like, if you have questions during it as well, feel free to raise a hand. He's open to questions, whatever. And then we're going to allow for some time too once he's done. If any of you are sticking around and want to do a quick chat, group chats, whatever, show off your work, Chris is going to stick around for a bit to kind of do that kind of stuff as well. So,
yeah, feel free to interrupt at any time. I'll actually save myself from talking for an hour.
All right, man. It's all yours, bro.
Okay.
Take it away.
So thanks for coming. This talk is going to be about passion projects and what you can do with them and how they can benefit your career. And so a little bit about myself first. I'm a designer and illustrator. I went to Sacramento State, graduated in 2006, which was forever ago, with a degree in graphic design. So I was right where you guys were almost 20 years ago now. We're closer to 2026 than 2006, so it's insane. I've been full-time freelance for the past 14 years. I worked staff as an art director and designer at some other jobs that I'll just briefly go over later. But you can see my work it's heavy on illustration. Is anyone here interested in incorporating illustration into graphic design? Well, that's not bad. It's always a few. But I didn't discover that until I started exploring my own work, that I'm like, oh, I love to draw. So illustration was kind of the natural thing to kind of blend in with my work. And as you can see, my style's pretty graphic. And really, I don't think I would have those sensibilities if I didn't have a graphic design degree. And so anyone who's interested in doing both, you kind of have an advantage because there are illustrators who are amazing artists, but if you see their business card, it looks terrible. It's like Comic Sans or whatever, their website. But anyone who has both skill sets, like you have so much more to offer clients. And yeah, I definitely encourage you guys to explore bringing both disciplines into your work. So before I start, because this is design students, the font I use for this presentation is New Form Sans. I don't know if you guys know Eric Marinovich. He's an amazing type designer from the Bay Area. He runs, I don't know.
First technical edition. Try it again. There you go.
He runs New Form Type, and this is New Form Sans. It's really fun, and also I bought it recently and haven't had a chance to use it. So here he goes, my excuse.
What made you choose it?
It had a lot of character to it. It's playful. I really like playful type. A lot of my work is mostly illustration these days, so I buy a lot of fonts but don't actually use them. So I was like, oh, this one is, I felt like it matched the vibe of the presentation. So these are just some of the clients I've had for the past 18 years, and it's been a long journey, but some are one-off projects, some clients I've been working with continuously. I've been working with Target since 2007, Wendy's for the last 6 years, and that's how I know Nick. My client they used to work together. Here's a little shot of my office. I live here in the Valley, just like 15 minutes away, so it's actually cool to come to this school. And I was like, when Nick asked me, I was like, oh yeah, that's like so close. And Carson, I was like, yeah, I'll come. It's right here. So I work from home. Another shot of my office. Kind of blessed to have this kind of creative space that I kind of built and evolved over the years. But it wasn't always like this. So in 2006, this is my desk when I first moved out into my first apartment in Burbank. You know it's old because that is a Sobe bottle, and they don't sell that drink anymore. And so yeah, but we'll circle back to this photo because it comes full circle. But I want to start off with just a question of like, what is a passion project? Like, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, but for me, it's just the simple definition. It's just something you create because you love everything about what it is you're creating at that time. So that's the simple definition. I'll break it down further. This is the boring part. This is just, there's not many pictures, just a lot of anecdotes I want to share with you. So a lot of people say passion projects, a lot of people say personal projects, and I feel like they're both kind of interchangeable. But there are two differences, I think, and it really comes down to project length and complexity. So passion projects usually have a longer form. It's something you're committed to for a while, not something you just quickly post on Instagram, which could be a personal project. And the reason why passion projects, I feel like, are better as longer form is because it's something that, you know, as you do, your audience can become invested in what you're doing. And I mean, so they become invested in your project, and then they also become invested in you. And it's just, yeah, that's just a good thing. But then also, a personal project can be just something you explore in a day or a weekend, and it's something you just need to get out of your head. But really, both they share one thing is that you both of them kind of are for yourself first and foremost. Like, and so I want to kind of zoom in on the things that are kind of some of the things that they share. So the first one is both are a showcase of what you're capable of without the limitations of a client brief. And this is the most important thing because most times, so when you work with a client, it's great, but they often don't let you do everything that you're best at. And which sucks because in your heart you want to do all these things, you know you can do all these things, but then there are limitations, you're adapting to their brief, and it's just how work is when you're not doing stuff for yourself. But the passion project allows you to basically have complete freedom over everything you make, and it's always a good thing. The second thing is that they're both focused on something you're passionate about, so, oops, sorry. And this can be literally anything, and later I talk about how you can start a passion project, and but really it's just leaning into your interests. Both give you the chance to explore new ways to approach your work, and I really think that's maybe the most beneficial similarity is that this is your time to experiment, and I feel like the freedom kind of nurtures that experimentation, and you take more chances because you don't have any client deadlines, you don't have anyone to answer to, so this is your chance to like do something cool. So the next section I want to talk about is, so what are the elements of a good passion project? And so number one, I think authenticity is important. I think passion projects are very personal. They come from a personal place. And the more your heart is kind of invested in what you're sharing, what you're creating, the more authentic it is. So it's not, so authenticity is kind of a general term here, but it's just kind of staying true to kind of the purpose of your, of what you're trying to explore. And so an example I had here is in 2015, I did this 200 print series of like a bunch of pop culture characters that were 3x4 inch prints, and people could buy them, and I had this custom mat made where they can kind of arrange their own set of heroes, and the series is called Select Your Hero. And when I would table at shows and people would come up to me and say, oh, why didn't you draw whoever they're a fan of? And for me, my answer was that I could only draw what I was a fan of. Same way I can only design what I love, and like when it comes to my own work, I'm not gonna just do something because it's either trending or like I have a very specific set of interests. So, you know, the characters here are all characters that I have some kind of emotional connection with. And so that's what I picked. But yeah, just going back to the idea of authenticity, it's like just staying true to your goal. Because I could have easily drawn a bunch of characters I would have sold, but then I wouldn't have had fun drawing them. So, oops. Oops. My bad. So the second thing is intention. So going back to, it's kind of piggybacking off authenticity, but just having your passion project have a clear goal, something you want to achieve. It could be technical, it could be the size of the project, the scale, or just something you're trying to convey, a message, a feeling, but just something that kind of grounds why you're doing what you're doing. And then number 3, just how I shared in the similarities between personal project and passion project, is an unexpected approach is definitely important. What was it? Oh yeah, so as more people as you share more work and people are more familiar with your style, they're gonna start associating you with a certain aesthetic or style or look, and this is like a passion project is a good time for you to break those expectations. And for me, anytime I do something new, it's always something different, and I kind of like that no one knows what I'm going to do next, which kind of, for me, it's exciting because I feel like my attention span for staying with one look or one style, it gets boring, and so having the option there, or just having the drive to explore new looks and new mediums is really important to me. Things your passion project doesn't require. So number 1 is an entrepreneurial spirit. So your passion project doesn't need to be for sale. I think that's number 1. A lot of times people make things these days and they feel like they have to sell it. And well, that's good. If you have a really good passion project and you get a lot of interest, someone out there is going to want to buy it. And then you realize after you start making sales, you start having customers, and then it just becomes a business, and just more things happen and unfold organically that you didn't expect. But it's not a requirement. So you can just do things because you want to do them, and that's it. Number 2 is perfection. I think you don't have to get it right. So if you're especially experimenting, it's okay to get messy. It's okay to do it wrong. It's okay to have it not live up to your expectations. And that's really the beauty of the process. So, number 3, you don't need a large social media following, and I think that's more important than ever today because the pressure of the algorithm. Basically, just do whatever you want, post whatever you want, share always. That's kind of my philosophy. And the last thing is permission. Basically, no one's there to tell you no. So, but yeah, let's see. So, what's the next thing? So one of the biggest benefits I feel like of doing a passion project is that clients love seeing them, especially in your portfolios. Throughout my career, I've had multiple clients come to me and use, like this example here, this was for a McDonald's pitch, March 2020, which was the worst time to get a new job. This project was killed because of the pandemic. But this was for McDonald's Switzerland, and they had pulled references from my portfolio, pulled projects from my portfolio that were all passion projects. These characters were from screen prints. That wood whale, which I'll talk about later, was another project that I started for myself. But you guys can't read it, but that quote says, above the whale, says, "What we actually love above all is to go with this 3D style if possible, within timing and costs." Which is funny because I'm not a 3D artist, but they're like, oh, look, it's 3D, I love it. So clients also don't read, and you'll find that they will never read. But I'm glad ultimately, after we had talked, before the project was killed, they wanted the 2D style. And another one for a Target gift card I'm working on right now, but again, new art director I'm working with also referenced 2 of my pieces that I did on my own. And just throughout my career, yeah, just squint. I can't show it. Just because it's not out yet, yeah. But yeah, 99% of my career, any new client that's come to me has referenced things I've done on my own. And I think that's really important because they could have referenced any of the other high-profile jobs that I've finished, but it's always back to stuff I've done on my own. It's not even things that I've like singled out, like personal projects. It's just things that they gravitated towards, and I think that's a kind of a really strong sign that, you know, it is important to just keep kind of pursuing things on your own, and because it shows. People can feel it, clients can feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, so were you constantly sharing your passion project, whatever you were done with one drawing and one illustration, and then did the company or your clients reach out to you?
Yeah, so the way, well, before social media was different, but now the way I do things, is I'll just share whatever, and it's just like casting a bunch of fishing lines out, and maybe someone will like it. And that's pretty much how I go about it. My whole career has been kind of organic in that way, where I just put things out, and then, you know, things come to me in different ways. So, yeah, but the point is definitely share. Like, share everything, even if you don't think it's good. So I touched on it before, but the next part is just how to start a passion project if you don't know where to begin. And I say it's the basics because really this is a huge topic, but it's just a place for you guys to start. For me, how I start most of my passion projects is just a simple statement. It's kind of cliche. It's just like, what if? What if I design enamel pins or turn this character into a figure or a toy, or combine these two like contrasting ideas together? It's really just giving yourself room to play with any idea you guys might have. And so the first thing that I always like to do is pick a favorite thing. And for me, I have a ton of favorite things. And so here's some of them. Some of them might be your favorite things, but I guarantee you no one here likes moss, which I put number 1. I love moss just as a plant. And there's tons of people out there who also love moss. And I've done projects where there's a moss component, people are like, I love that because of this. So you just never know, like these like niche audiences that you'll garner. But like, what would you guys pick? Anything here that you would have similar? Whales. Okay, see, very specific. Yeah. Yep. Vintage toys. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, reading this, it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's like 10-year-old me. But really, that's where a lot of my work is kind of drawn from, is just my childhood and just, just things that I've just kind of always loved. And the thing doesn't have to be tangible either. It could be like an experience or a memory, something else you want to explore that's more abstract. So don't think you have to pick like something that's, you know, you can hold, or an object or something in pop culture. So number 2 is pick your favorite theme. And so this is something that's not tangible, and it kind of helps you set up boundaries for your passion project. So for example, here I have kind of these feelings and, I don't know, energies, I guess. But like if you were to pick, you know, childhood, you know, there's kind of constraints to, like you can't make it look too old, or it needs to be playful. You know, there's just kind of, it also keeps your project grounded so you don't go too far off. Especially if you're making a series of things that are based around childhood, then it kind of keeps you focused. The next part is you pick your medium. So for me, I'm not a very good traditional artist. So these are kind of my 4 favorite mediums to use. It's digital art, Photoshop, Illustrator. I love to airbrush. I love to paint on objects, not like canvas. And then I love like woodworking. So, you know, I'm like, well, look, which one do I want to explore today with which subject and which theme? So this is a good place to start, is pick your medium. Or it could be something new. You know, it could be something you've never tried before. It could be clay, it could be something else. Then you pick a format. So again, for me, it's sculpture, art prints, small merch, which is like stickers, embroidered patches, pins. And I also like working in a series. And I feel like a series can work for any of these, really. Like a series of stickers based around one theme and one subject. It's like you're just kind of connecting all the dots. And to quickly recap, so it's just really pick an interest, pick a theme, a medium, and then a format. And then the beauty of each of these categories is they can get really granular. So if I were to pick Star Wars for an interest, and then like, oh, within Star Wars, I want to pick like the bounty hunters. But then within the bounty hunters, I want to pick Dengar, because I really love C-list characters, and no one does anything with Dengar. Do you guys even know who Dengar is? Oh, basically, I wouldn't pick Boba Fett. So, yeah. And then the other thing is for years and years, I've kept a running note doc that has just random ideas I have, just doing whatever. It's things I come across, just ideas I have in the shower, whatever. And it's good to kind of look at those again because you might find something on that list that you'd want to explore, I don't know, even years down the road. So, but yeah, so okay, that's the most boring part, I feel like, of the presentation. There's no pictures. But the next part I feel is more important because I want to share with you guys why passion projects have kind of, or not why, but how they've shaped my career. But to do that, I have to go to the beginning. For me, it was the early 2000s. I graduated high school in 2000, went to college, graduated in 2006. But I started in community college. Did any of you guys transfer from community college? Yeah, huge supporter of doing that. Save a ton of money, and yeah, I just actually learned Illustrator there, which is huge. Oops, sorry. Oh my gosh, the reveal. So sorry, when I was going to community college, I got an internship at a local design studio. Mostly work with nonprofits, a lot of like government agencies, really boring stuff. I was in Sacramento, so there's a lot of state agencies. And, but we did a lot of annual reports, brochures, logos for like the fire department, just things that aren't that exciting, but I learned the business. And I also got the internship by showing them a portfolio of really bad Photoshop projects that I'd done in high school, because that's all I had, because I was 18 and it was the fall of right after I graduated high school, and I was like, hey, do you guys have any internships? I really want to do design. And they just let me on. And so, but I ended up staying there from the fall of 2000 until I graduated. So I started as an intern and then became an employee. It was a very small group. It was like 6, 7 people. But really, that's where I cut my teeth. And if you guys have a chance to intern anywhere, like I definitely would take that opportunity. But going back to Illustrator, so in community college I learned, it was my first class, an Introduction to Adobe Illustrator. So this was my very first homework assignment from my very first class, which was draw your name in a space scene. And this is it. And I always like to share this because it's not embarrassing, it's really funny, but it also shows that it literally started from not knowing anything in terms of the programs. Forget like design principles, but just like a lot of you, I'm sure, maybe started learning the programs at the beginning of this program. So there's room to grow, essentially. So through my early years of college, I was really interested in illustration, but I wasn't sure how to incorporate it into my work. And so then I discovered in 2003 the world of kind of designer toys. Are you guys familiar with that now? Kind of like designer vinyl toys. Well, in 2003, like no one really knew about it, and it was new and fresh. I'd never seen anything like it before. And so when I saw this, I was like, oh man, this is something I want to do, something I want to be a part of someday. And this is what kind of set me on the track of like, okay, I love to draw, but this is what I want to draw. And initially, I was really drawn to the work of this UK artist, Pete Fowler. And he had this series of characters in this world called Monsterism. And it was just like, it was just wild to me, like just what he could do, what he was able to make. And so after I saw his work, I was like, not only do I want to someday be involved in the toy industry, or the vinyl toy world, but I want to make my own characters, and I want those characters to be toys. And so I went out and started and created my own cast of characters called the Urbanites, which was around 2004. And this was inspired by everything I was kind of taking in at the time after I discovered the vinyl toy world. So you can definitely see the aesthetic in there, but I think at this point in my development, I was trying to explore big shapes because I was really drawn to like big graphic illustrations. And then here's some of the prints that I had done using those characters. I was really into sneakers back then and like hip hop. I mean, everything that was me when I was 23. So yeah, so a bunch of prints I had turned into canvas prints, paper prints, just you know, basically made prints but didn't have anywhere to sell them. And so I had a few friends who, or I had a friend who owned a store, and then I knew some local coffee shops, and basically did it like grassroots style, where I just showed my work locally. And like these two photos of like this group of people looking at my work and that guy taking a photo were like the first times like I ever had that experience of like, oh my gosh, someone's actually interested in what I'm doing. I mean, these are, like I printed those out on my Epson and cut them out. And I think none of these pieces are really for sale, or some of them were. They weren't even framed, they were just matted. These are framed. But yeah, so, you know, I was just doing this in Sacramento over the course of a summer. And then at that time I had also transferred to Sacramento State already, and I was already in the design program. But during this era, MySpace was huge. And so I made a lot of good friends through that platform. And I got invited to my first big art show in LA. And being from Sacramento, I was like, oh my gosh, this is huge. I didn't know that. I mean, later I found that Cannibal Flower and Blue Girl were kind of big proponents in the kind of lowbrow art, not, I guess, movement or scene. But anyway, it's the first time my name was ever on a art show flyer. And so the art show happens, which is crazy too. It's November 13, 2004. This is when that happened, which is almost 20 years to today. Wow. Almost, yeah. So from opening night, I ended up selling everything, which is crazy. Like the coveted red dot whenever you sell a piece of artwork, and that bunny in the corner. So my friend Joe Ledbetter, who he got famous for that bunny. But he was the one who invited me. I sold all my prints, and I also met someone from, I met a guy from a company who was interested in making my characters into toys, which was, at that point was my only goal. Like, I have to make a toy somehow. I didn't know how, but so that night I had met him, and you know, we developed one of my main characters, Mello, into 3D. That's the prototype there, and that's kind of some of the packaging mock-ups. And then the second character, which was Clevis, who was a radish farmer. And yeah, so if you remember from my previous slide, I just picked two that I really liked. And you know, at the time, this is mind-blowing. I mean, the sculpt itself that you see in gray is really rudimentary, but then once it was painted up, it really it did reflect my original art. So needless to say, I was excited, like super excited. The company then showed the work off at Comic-Con in '05, and Comic-Con then was way different than it is now. It was much smaller, much quieter. And at this point, I've been going back and forth to Kid Robot in San Francisco, talking to the manager, asking like, hey, is there any way I could do a show here? And 6 months later, I get a solo show there using the same artwork that I've had and same prints. I made some new ones. But yeah, this is huge. This is like the pinnacle. It's like, well, there's nothing left after this because I'm getting toys made, having an art show at my favorite store, and that's it. You know, I've done it. But this is kind of still just the beginning, because at this show, so Kid Robot San Francisco, a customer comes in and buys a piece of art, and that person was like kind of a product manager at Lucas Licensing, the Star Wars, before they merged. And he was like, hey, I love your style. Do you think you would want to do something for the Star Wars Style Guide? I was like, whoa. Like officially. And so I'm still in college. I'm like, yeah, of course I'll do that.
How old are you at this point?
24. Yeah. So, but again, you know, starting from, you know, local art shows, just doing it the hard way like that. So I said yes. This is the first work I did officially for, you know, for a big client in 2005, and I was, you know, it's weird now. This looks nothing like what I would do. But to have contributed officially to a brand I loved was like a dream. So at this point, I'm like, well, definitely can't get any better than this. Like, this is it. So I go through the design program, and this is a picture from my senior show. I don't know what you guys call it, high res. But this was my table setup, and I've had the Beast is Back name since college. I never changed it, and at this point, I can't change it because people wouldn't even know. It just is what it is. It's just part of me. But there you see the Star Wars work, and then I had done vector tutorials for a magazine called Computer Arts, which is sadly no longer published. Everything had to be printed out. I asked Carson if you guys had to print stuff out, and she said, not really. So, is that true?
Pretty much. It's like half and half.
Oh, man.
And slowly, I think, the last few iReses, it's getting more, this like real stuff. So it's
Yeah.
they'll make a packaging mock-up. They'll do something unique and frame it. So it's getting a little bit more granular with that, which is awesome.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, when I went to school, it was all about, it was just craft. Everything had to be straight. Everything had to be cut perfectly, but it was really to train your brain to apply those, to apply that attention to detail everywhere. Anyway, so I graduate, and now we're back to my apartment, 2006. First apartment out of school. So I moved there, and hoping to work for the company that produced my toys. Turns out he couldn't pay me, so I had to find my own job. And for 2 months, I searched Craigslist for a design job. And I ended up getting a position at this magazine called Vapors, which is also unfortunately out of print. But it covered like skateboarding, streetwear, like hip hop, a bunch of cool things. It was like, I was in LA, the office was on Sunset Boulevard, so I was like, just moved from Sacramento, so I was getting the full like LA experience. I mean, since this job, I've had no reason to go back to Hollywood, so there's that. So anyway, I got a job. My position officially was art director. An art director meant one person lays out the entire magazine, which sucks because normally an art director, you have people that, you're kind of overseeing, but no. They were like, you can do all of this, right? I'm like, yeah. The pay wasn't great. I think my starting pay then was $39,000 a year, which is like nothing now. But I got to work with a lot of, like the content was really cool. A lot of great music producers and like models and athletes, and like it was cool. I got to go to some parties, so that was a fun experience for a time. So I stayed there for 6 months, and the funny thing is that this magazine, Vapors, was actually the first place that I saw the work of Pete Fowler. Before it all started. So this is the issue I had from 2004, and I bought it at a Borders, which I miss still. And so yeah, for me to go back and actually end up working at the magazine that I discovered the inspiration to, I don't know, it's just a weird, like the universe was just telling me things. And afterwards, so 6 months at Vapors, I get recruited to a company called Buck. Are you guys familiar with Buck at all? Okay, one. Yeah, they're amazing. So in the beginning, they were kind of motion graphics focused, and I had no experience in motion graphics, but they were going to pay me $25,000 more than what I was paying or getting paid at the magazine. So I left the magazine, and I basically learned on the job there. I'm not an animator, but I was brought on as a designer, and I worked with animators. And this is some of the style frames, are basically like frames you would show a client that kind of conveys the look and feel of the commercial. Because back then, Buck did mostly commercial work. There was no social media or like tech companies or anything like that. But really, this job changed my life because one, this was one of the hardest jobs I've ever had because every client project was different. As you can see, like every project required a different style, and all the designers at Buck had to adapt to whatever the pitch or brief was. So, I came in with kind of one style, but had a really good mentor there that pushed me pretty hard. And over the next 2.5 years, I just kind of, I guess, became better than I probably would have ever been, or I don't think I would have been as good if I didn't have this job, this particular job, just for me, just because it forced me to work in so many different styles, in such short timelines, and it just kind of trained my mind to just think differently. So, and then after Buck, I continued to freelance for other agencies, Brand New School, Logan, Digital Kitchen. These are some of the work from there. Same idea, style frames. Some were assets that were part of spots. But really, you can see it's very varied. It just really depends on what was required at the time. Also, Adventure Time was huge during that era, so those top 2 slides are definitely inspired by kind of that whimsy. And the other thing, so all this time while I have a full-time job, I'm also freelancing full-time while I'm at Buck, trying to, like a lot of the clients that you saw on my first slide, those were all happening while I was working full-time. But I was also doing conventions and tabling at shows, and this is really where I started to get my work out. My wife and I used to have a greeting card company called The Birds and the Beasts. She's a writer, so I was like, oh, let's combine our talents. So that's another passion project. I won't go over that in detail, but basically, yeah, I just started putting my work out there, and this is where I started gaining an audience really quickly. I mean, some of these are recent, some of these are very old, like 2010, before Instagram. But yeah, it's great, just for exposure. I mean, like I said, you don't have to go into passion projects wanting to sell them. A lot of the stuff here I ended up making because I started to have a customer base that expected or that I knew would buy a certain thing from me, so I would tailor my own passion projects to something I know that could benefit my business. But that's another talk. But just that all this time I was getting my work out there, doing shows. So the next part I just want to talk about is just a couple case studies from just my own work, some passion projects that I thought really stood out in terms of what I was able to achieve and kind of what they share or what they show. And they'll kind of have their own story. So the first one was Star Wars again. And this is a great what if moment. I was really into the Mondo kind of alternative movie poster scene, silkscreen movie posters. And I was like, oh, it'd be cool if I did Star Wars my way, the trilogy. And at this time it was 2015, so Star Wars was not as saturated as it is now. So for me, I was still excited about the brand. So I decided to do these 16 by 20 inch art prints. It was 2012, not 2015, my mistake. It's even older. And so yeah, I just kind of did it my own way where I kind of illustrated scenes and had quotes and just tried to tell a narrative, or tried to tell each movie's narrative just through simple illustrations. And then after that, in 2014, I wanted to do, so this is the back of a vintage Star Wars action figure, which shows all of them you can collect. I was like, oh, it'd be cool if I drew all of these in this format. And so I did, and it became I made it as a 27 by 40 inch poster, which I sold through my shop and at shows. But then in 2015, I get an email from Lucas Licensing and Reed Pop, who organizes their big celebration events. And they said, first they said, don't worry, you're not in trouble, because I saw their email list. I was like, oh crap, is it a cease and desist? But really, they're interested in basically licensing or purchasing the artwork officially that I had done for both the action figure poster and the movie posters as official merch for their celebration event. And so I was like, sure. I wasn't going to say no to that. And they ended up being used on t-shirts, enamel pins, art prints. They even made magnets, and it all had the celebration logo. I had to tweak it a little bit, but it all became official. And once it became official, I couldn't sell it myself anymore. But at this point, 2015, the prints had run their course. I had sold a lot, so I was like, this is just icing on the cake that it's now part of the, I guess, Star Wars archive. And the coolest thing was right at the the episode 7 hype, John Boyega wore the shirt on some trip. And I was like, my friend sent it to me because, look how old that Instagram interface is. But I know, it looks so different. But then I was like, whoa, it's just crazy. Like, I mean, I don't know why or how he got that shirt, but probably from Celebration, someone gave it to him. I'm pretty sure he didn't buy it, but so that was a cool moment. And then this is just some pictures from the merch section from the Anaheim Convention Center, some of the pins, the posters. It was just like really surreal. So at this point, I'm like, does it get any better, right? After the toys and after the art show, and then there's this, like, doing official stuff for Star Wars that started as a personal project or a passion project that I didn't think would ever kind of go beyond just me. So that's this one. And then the next one I want to talk about is a sculpture project that I started called Freeman Robotics in 2013. And it's kind of inspired by retro futurism, WALL-E, that game Portal. So this was a fake, I don't know, robotics company I made up. And for me, I had to brand it, so I had a world to build around. It's really generic, and it's supposed to sound generic. So I created these kind of autonomous robot designs that made life easier. One's a storage unit, one's a bus, one might help you with your laundry. Just simple kind of retro robot designs. And I was like, you know what, it'd be cool to turn one of these into a figure. And so I turned this one, the U23 model, which was basically a storage unit. Not very exciting, but I like the shape. So I was like, you're gonna be the one I get made into a figure. So I got it modeled. And this project, I decided I wanted to really lean into my love for building plastic models. Airbrushing again. Then I could also practice package design. It's very crude package design. I just basically combined all the things I'm interested in into one project. And so it was modeled in resin, or modeled, 3D printed, cast in resin, and I hand painted all of them. I had custom water slide decals made. Does anyone else here build Gundam models? There you go. So you guys understand what's happening here. And then this box was basically just a gift lid box that I had stickers made that I applied the branding to. So these are the final 3. So I made one that was like a municipality or a municipal services one. That's like a trash collecting one. The standard one you can own at home, which is clean and kind of pristine. And then I don't know why I made one that was a dive unit, but I just like kind of that retro dive colored yellow. So I made one a dive unit. It's just some more details at the back with the decals applied and the weathering. And then I shot some promotional photos using some toys I had just to give context to this world I was trying to explain and build. And this is a display I had made for DesignerCon 2013. Just wanted to this was kind of the debut to show off hey, this is what I'm working on. But I kind of went all out, and I think from this point on I never stopped kind of going overboard with the presentation of things. So this is kind of the final overview of everything. I made a little instruction guide, certificate of ownership, some stickers, a warning sheet, a fake warning sheet, do not do this with your storage robot. So I made a gift box work by just applying stickers to it. There were no print-on-demand services for packaging like there is now. So I was like, well, how can I use what I can buy off the shelf and make it more interesting? So. The second project, or the third project I want to talk about is a brand I had from 2015 until last year called Night Cake. So in 2015, and pins are huge. And that was also another one of those moments where I was like, I want to make pins. I don't know how. I'll ask some friends, but I want to do it. And but first, that type or that logo type was done by Jonathan Ball. If you guys want to see his work, he's amazing. Everything he does is by hand. So really incredible. But before John did my logo type, this is what the logo type looked like. And in 2015, I had 6 pins on a little display stand. And then you can see the Select Your Hero prints there mocked up as in the mat, and just some of my other work. But 6 pins turned into over 120 pins. This is not even all of them over the years. Many sold out. I used to do them only as a single run and then discontinue them. just to keep the slogan at the time was limited run or super fun, or limited run super fun. And then I stopped using that, but because I realized making 50 or so wasn't enough.
Those considered parodies, so like, did you ever have any issues with like licenses?
No.
Because you
Yeah.
keep them enough.
And even, yeah, the fan art discussion is, it's kind of a gray area. I feel like if you love it, just draw it.
Yeah.
Because if you're contributing to the fandom, like Comic-Con, everyone is selling fan art.
Yeah.
Like all they have to do is have the lawyers go down every aisle and just hand out cease and desist. But I feel like if you're doing good work, you're not like tracing something and selling something that already exists. Like these companies and brands are more willing to work with you than they are, they're not gonna just shut you down, so. But yeah, so yeah, definitely parodies, because pins are about parodies too. I was combining like, one of my most popular designs was like Keroppi and Kermit the Frog. So once I started making them, like it was just, the floodgates just opened up. Once I knew how to work with the medium, the limitations of the pin medium, how to set up files, it was just like, well, now that I know the technical stuff, I can just make things. And then one of the main, so when I started the brand, I was like, everyone's making pins, how do I stand out? So what I decided to do was combine my interest in product photography with my own products. And I made these very elaborate photo shoots for each of the pins that I would release. And so as this night cake became more and more popular, people would start looking forward to the photo shoots, sometimes more than the pins, based on the comments. Also, does anyone that hates cilantro? Okay, only one. That's crazy. So my wife hates it, and that's one of the most popular pins we've ever made. Something so simple. Anyway, so a lot of this is like cut paper. I used to like search around for miniatures. Like, is there a miniature snake? There's a miniature anything basically. If you look for it, someone's made a miniature of it. So this is just more examples of just getting resourceful, learning how to make slime. I bought flan just for this Flan of the Dead pin. I used dry ice for the smoke for the set of like little monster pins in the corner. I use a clear acrylic sheet for the water. It just like, it became almost special effects at a point, but on a very, very miniature scale. So it wasn't really glamorous, but then the final shot is all that mattered. So I had built this like hill out of foam, covered it in like railroad miniature grass, and
Is that where the moss thing started?
no, I wish. It's more of an extension of the moss. And then I bought these little peaches from Etsy. Someone had miniature peaches. So at this point, I was obsessed with finding anything that I could that was small, just for these little photo shoots. And some more behind the scenes. Basically, practicing my craft, finding an excuse to use skills leading to my interests that I wouldn't normally get to with my client work. So this was an outlet. And passion projects should definitely be an outlet for you in whatever way that manifests. So I had pins, also made tote bags under this brand. I learned, I had some friends who were making their own mugs. So I bought a dye sublimation printer and a heat press and made mugs in my living room. And I was able to do them in like 1 or 2 at a time because I was making them myself, so I didn't have to order a bunch. I made embroidered patches, which I also applied the same kind of excessiveness to with the backgrounds that I cut shapes out of with my Cricut. Then I also had this giant tiger patch that was about 8 inches, and at this point I was getting more ambitious with the things I wanted to produce. And then this is my wife modeling it. And then recently this got picked up as a 4x4 foot, that's our dog. I had to find an excuse to put him in here. But it got picked up as a 4 foot by 4 foot rug. So there's a Gallery Nucleus in Alhambra, but there's also one in Portland. And they have a bunch of artist series rugs, and they were like, hey, this would make a great rug. So I modified the art a little bit. And so yeah, I mean, this started from Well, it started from an art print, sticker, a patch, and now it's a rug, all from one design. So you just don't know where your designs will go or who will be interested in picking them up. All right, and the next one is the whale project I kind of showed you guys from that McDonald's pitch. 2017, I wanted to experiment with wood, and so this was kind of the final product shot of that project. And it was a wood whale. The base shapes are cut from a CNC, which is like computer controlled router that will cut any shape out of from like a piece of vector or a vector file. It came with an art print and a little sailor, but I called them secret sailors because there were 6 different ones you could get, but they were kind of mystery packed. And yeah, so it came with a pin, and I knew how to make pins already, and then the art print. So I'm just combining more and more of things I've learned, things I've experienced into more ambitious passion projects. And this is the packaging mock-up. Also, pack lane is great if you guys want to make a one-off package for something. They can make just one if you want for like $20 or $15, and they have tons of different sizes. The die lines can be customized to whatever you need. It is, yeah. Pack lane, yeah.
So you just upload the file and they send it off to you.
Yeah, or you tell them, they have pre-made box sizes, but you can also type in your own size if you want like a weird long rectangular or whatever. But yeah, it's great. Like again, this option wasn't available when I did that Freeman Robotics thing. I would have used something like this, but it just wasn't around. So this is the original concept. Started with a sketch, then I mocked it up out of paper, using my Cricut to cut the shapes, the vector shapes, the same ones that would be cut by the CNC out of wood, just to make sure the size felt right, the shapes looked right, silhouette was right, things like that. There's a little snippet of the process, which was essentially a lot more work than I had thought. A lot more. I used the wrong wood. Plywood has a lot of pits in the middle, so I had to fill all those pits, sand them down. This took maybe 3 times longer than I expected, but it was fun. I had to cut all the wood boat shapes by hand. I'm proud of this solution. I was like, how am I going to paint a straight line for the hair? So I hooked this up to my drill press and just held a paintbrush to it like a lathe, and then I was able to get a straight line. So these are all things you just kind of problem solve as you're, like I didn't plan for that. I was like, well, how do I do this now that I have this made? Yeah, and then the last one that I want to talk about was Joyriders. And this is a project that I started with my friend Matt Koffenberg, also an amazing illustrator. We started in 2013, didn't finish until 2020 because it was a very expensive project, and the pandemic happened and that set things back. But yeah, so it is a fully produced toy in China, and it was an idea that we had together. So he created one character, this character on the left, Brett Bradfield, and I created this alien, his alien sidekick, Zero Xanthem, as I call it. But this is the final packaged piece, and I did bring one here if you guys wanted to look at it later. But again, flexing all the muscles that I've been using previously: product photography, package design, graphic design, illustration, everything. This project uses every ability that I had in the stable. So in the back, I shot all the photos. That's my wife's hand. Like everything was just like, everything was DIY. These are some vintage style illustrations Matt did of the characters, which are really amazing. He worked in a style that I couldn't, so we complemented each other that way. And this is the final set. And it came with a set of customizable stickers. One set designed by me, one set designed by Matt, so you can kind of pick and choose. And there are different stickers for the chest plates. And we were really inspired by toys from our childhood. And so we kind of wanted to make a modern version of that. And then, so that package, the photo on the back of the package this was the setup for it. I bought a lot of aquarium plants. But yeah, everything I was doing on my own. And I also kind of wanted to learn these things so I didn't have to rely on anyone else. I don't think there's anything wrong with collaborating with a photographer, collaborating with like someone who does something that you just don't want to do. But for me, I'm like, I was so nitpicky with details. I'm like, I got to learn how to do all this stuff myself. So photography, lighting, all that stuff. I'm like, you know what? It'll just help me in the future. So it doesn't hurt to put in the time. Another shot of them. This is kind of the most involved promo shot that we took. And this was the setup that was required for that. I painted the background. It was a lot. But at this point in the process, the toy had been made. I was like, we're gonna just do this right. We've waited 7 years. We can't cut any corners. So with the first 100 people who bought it, we made this little promo pack. Came with this wood block that was screen printed and had California and Minnesota. He's from Minnesota. Our toy brand name was LK Toys for Lee Koffenberg. So we had that screen printed on the blocks, and it came with stickers and some patches and pins. This is an example of the mock-up process that I did. Well, this is the final version. The package went through many versions, but this diagram here is showing how I illustrating to the factory how I wanted the insert done, where the instructions should go. And then the one on the left was me using the Cricut again to kind of play with the die line for the window. And I was like, why am I going to cut this out with an X-Acto knife and a ruler when the Cricut can do it for me? So it was a quick way to prototype different windows, different ways that I could approach it. So definitely a great tool if you guys haven't used one before. And this, so that's the last slide for this because it's way too long. This is like a 45-minute read. It goes through the production process in China. So if you're interested in making toys, just read that, and then it'll cover all the bases. All right, so this next section are a bunch of passion projects I pulled from friends of mine who are, amazing. And each one really has like a piece of advice I think is important to kind of your pursuits. So the first one is leaning into your personal resources. And I think this is important because we all have someone we know that does something, or in some industry. And as you do more work and meet more people, you'll start to build that resource pool. And for me, like any place or anyone I can learn, any place that what am I trying to say? Any new resource I can find, like I just latch onto. Like if I wasn't into making, I don't know, something laser cut, whatever, I'm like, oh, but now I know where I can make this. So if I ever want to, I can. So this first example is from Invisible Creature. They're a design company in Seattle. You guys know Invisible Creature at all? There you go, one. Anyway, they're legends. Made tons of band posters. They're just iconic in so many ways. But the project I wanted to share with you guys was one that they collaborated with their dad. So their dad was their resource. Their dad was a hardcore woodworker, cabinet maker, and they're designers. And so the dad had a laser cutter, sounds like the best dad ever. And they created these two projects here. It's the Space Tower that was based off the Space Needle, and then another one that's based off just kind of like a retro space travel theme. But basically combining both of their sensibilities and being able to work with their dad is pretty awesome. Another one they worked on with their dad was this pencil pull toy that uses their mascot, which is a mummy. And their dad made the pencils, made everything from scratch, the wheels. I think he even painted them. Actually, no. They got the figure made somewhere. Never mind. They didn't paint those stripes. That would have been insane. And then some more examples. They just continue to work with their dad. But this was a client gift they gave away to select clients. Their dad made all the doves and the blocks, and then this table. The dad made the table, and then they had the designs on top UV printed. UV printers are pretty awesome because they can basically inkjet print on anything, any substrate, any material. They don't have to be screen printed, so the costs get cut way down. Yeah, also know the good things, like, oh, if everyone wants something UV printed, there's someone I can ask. And then the second case study I have from them is that sometimes you have to just ask. You know, sometimes you don't have the leads, and even for them, they're super well known in the industry, and even they had to make cold calls. So there's this block company, Uncle Goose, who actually made the blocks that were part of our Joyrider set, but a connection through Invisible Creature. But Invisible Creature really loved what they did, and they reached out to them and said, like, hey, how can we do something with you? And so they pitched them this idea called Stack and Scare. And it's basically a set of modular wood blocks, screen printed, some were engraved with illustrated details like teeth, and you can basically just make an infinite number of monsters. And then from this project, I mean, it's distributed in like boutique kid stores all over the place. Someone saw it in Asia and said, like, hey, can we make an oversized like installation of your wood blocks for a mall? And really, as much as I've done in my career, having a giant installation in a mall in Asia is probably number one, because they just go all out. I didn't show photos of the interior installation, but just imagine that, but just times 20. It's a really amazing opportunity, but it all came from them just asking, hey, how can I work with you? This is the second set they released. That was space themed, again, modular blocks, but space, and everyone loves space, and robots. All right, so this, should say case study. I didn't change the numbers. Case study some number, but it's about creating a series, and I mentioned this before. A series helps ground your project, keeps it relatable. Yeah, and the one artist or designer I wanted to bring focus to is Matt Stevens, amazing illustrator and designer. That's the other thing too. All of these people I'm showing you are illustrator designers, and you can kind of see in their sensibilities that they have illustrative, I don't know, the essence of illustration in all their work, even their type. But the project is Good Movies as Old Books, which is that thumbnail in the corner. And basically, Matt took two things he's interested in, old books, vintage books from a specific period, mid-century, 1960s, 1950s, and then movies, and decided to basically make his own fake book covers for all these movies. And the thing is, for this kind of passion project where you set these parameters, like I want to pick movies and then old books, it requires a ton of research. I'm sure he pulled, I don't know, he probably spent a ton of time on Pinterest making sure he was staying authentic to the time period. And so I think that's really important. But then that project ballooned into over 200 books, 200 book covers. He turned it into a Kickstarter, which funded, and he sold it as a book that's now available as 2 volumes. And it's just crazy. Again, just because he wanted to combine 2 ideas together and share it with people. And people loved it, and people wanted to buy it. So really fun. He also did this concept with the Air Max 1, the Nike Air Max 1, where he basically illustrated the Air Max 1 in like 50 different ways. And I'm pretty sure that's how he got the attention of Nike. So again, you don't need permission to make a fake project for Nike or a big brand just because you want to just explore something, because you never know, they might see it. So this one goes back to the idea of intent. And I'm a big fan of using prompts to kickstart a concept. It kind of helps you get over that blank page hump that we all struggle with. Andrew Kolb is the illustrator I want to highlight for this example. He's based in Canada, super talented. He's done work for Target as well, tons of board games and books. He's a really big D&D nerd, so it's awesome. But every year, there are 2 artists that do these Halloween prompts. So this is from Mab Graves. She's a really incredible painter. And there's also one from Craig Gleason, who's a really good illustrator, but these are the two most popular ones. And basically they just give you a bunch of very general Halloween-like terms, and then it's an art challenge. You know, you just draw whatever you think this means to you. So Andrew is an incredibly smart designer, and he decided to take the prompts and make kind of vintage products you'd find in like a 1930s catalog. And some of his solutions were super smart. Like this puppet one, he could have drawn like a scary dummy, but then instead he drew a box of nails, but then it's Pinocchio, but then the nail is the nose. It's like, there's so many layers to these. But he went on to do all 31, which some of the solutions, like if you really spend time to really look at the details he included, even the treatment, like there's the right amount of grain, it's the right type of shading that matches the time period. Like it is authentic to his vision, to his concept, and it's, you know, the hardest part is starting. So once you set a style, you have something to follow, and that makes doing a series a lot easier. Then he also turned this into a book because people were interested enough. This was a print-on-demand book, but he had, so on the opposing page, he would have like some copy and like a black and white version to support the full color version. So it was a completely like vintage presentation. Yeah, and he also made up this fake company, Necronomicorp, which I thought was brilliant. Anyway, this is just excellent example. Okay, getting there. So just some last minute tips. Number one, passion projects can scale. Basically, as your life changes, as things change, sensibilities change, things you like now, you won't like when you're 33, 34, and that's okay. I mean, your passion projects might start small from the beginning and stay small, and that's also okay. But normally, as you get more confident, get more money, more time, more just worldly influence, you'll want to go bigger. With that said, don't go big too soon, because anytime anyone sees my toy projects, they're like, oh my gosh, I love toys. I want to make toys. And I tell them, don't make toys. I don't think I was ready to do that Joyriders project even 10 years ago. And I definitely wasn't ready for that in 2005 when I was doing the Urbanites. I thought I was, but after learning how expensive it was, how involved the process is, at least I wasn't ready to do it on my own. Like when I was working with a company, yeah, it was better, but I was not ready in my career to pursue something that ambitious. And the last thing is, it's okay to revisit old projects. I think some of the things like Star Wars, I look back like, oh, I could do this differently now with my current point of view or my current style, or if I want to explore a different style. So don't think just because you did a passion project once, you can't go back to it and try it again in a different way. So I think that's it. I think that's it. Thanks, guys.